This is a very important and special moment for our country, for all Americans.
We will grow our economy by delivering more jobs.
90% of Americans will be able to fill out their taxes on a postcard.
That was House Republicans at their unveiling of their new plan to overhaul and simplify the tax code for Americans and cut taxes for millions of middle-class Americans. The bill would reduce tax brackets from 7 to 4, individuals earning up to $45,000 and married couples earning up to $90,000 would pay just 12% in taxes. The bill would double standard deductions to $12,000 for individuals and $24,000 for married couples. Home mortgage interest deductions will not be eliminated but will be capped at $500,000, down from $1 million. State and local taxes deductions will be replaced by property tax deductions with a $10,000 cap, and the child tax credit will increase from $1,000 to $1,600. Democrats warn that the benefits middle-class Americans will get will dwindle over time, while corporations and wealthy individuals will get lasting tax advantages.
The Republicans know the more this bill is exposed out there, the less people like it. In short, the bill's like a fish. If it stays out in the sunlight too long, it stinks.
The Congressional Black Caucus released a statement blasting the tax plan. Quote, "This bill was drafted to help the richest of the rich and hurt underserved communities. In fact, this bill likely benefits President Trump directly. It is insulting to offer an African-American family a few $100s in tax relief while giving major corporations and Trump's 1% a multi-million-dollar windfall." Joining us right now to discuss how this tax plan will affect you is Deborah Owens, America's wealth coach, who often does our Wealthy You segment. So, Deborah, you looked at what they presented. Your thoughts?
My thoughts are that this is not a middle-class tax break or tax proposal. If you look at the changes in this bill, one of the things that you see is that most of the current provisions, and if you look at the capital gains tax rate in particular, were not changed. But if you look at what was changed is, depending upon where you live, particularly if you live in some of the higher, expense states, that you're going to lose in this proposal, even though it appears that they're doubling that standard tax deduction to $24,000. When you look at all of the items that they eliminated, that you no longer will get to deduct, you know, eliminating or reducing the amount of mortgage interest that you are able to deduct, reducing interest on loans, student loans in particular, which we talk about often on NewsOne Now, about the amount of debt that many African Americans in particular particularly have as it relates to student loan debt, then it's pretty, you know, easy to look at this as not a middle class tax bracket, but really preserving the benefits that the top 1% receives, because the reality is that they're not paying personal income taxes. That capital gains tax rate really benefits them because they're not, it is one of the lowest of the rates, and most of them are getting their income from assets like stocks and capital gains. So this is not a middle class tax break.
And one of the things that you jump out, this whole capping of local taxes, as well as you know, that's the issue that the home folks really got a problem with, because so many Americans benefit from that. And so, as you said, if you're living in California, New York, or states along those lines, you're gonna have a serious problem.
Well, it's interesting because you look at in urban areas where the cost of living is high. So yes, we say states like New York, states like California, but Maryland, where I reside, has a pretty high cost of living. DC, and a lot of that is being driven by real estate taxes, and not being able to take that property tax deduction or capping the amount of mortgage interest deduction that you can take really is going to impact people in urban areas more so.
All right, let's go to our panel here, Brandon. And so Republicans are again, you keep hearing middle class, middle class, middle class, middle class. But once you start breaking this thing down, different analysis also show that this tax plan is going to add $1.5 trillion to the deficit. I thought Republicans were fiscal hawks. So how could they make the case they want to lower the deficit when this is going to add to the deficit?
You're right, Roland. I just want to say it's very funny to hear Democrats attacking Republicans on fiscal responsibility. It shows the
I'm
political
sorry,
nature
I'm asking
of
a
this
question.
No, I'm saying again.
No, hold up.
And I'm answering your question. I find it funny that Democrats are now talking about deficits when for the past 8 years it wasn't a concern. And so I will say again, I agree with you. There are some.
Actually, hold on, Brandon. I'm gonna allow you to finish, Brandon, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Didn't President Bill Clinton leave office with a surplus?
On paper, but if you look at some.
No.
Yeah.
He left office with a surplus, and then President George W. Bush initiated tax cuts that led to a deficit. Republicans have complained about massive Republican spending under President George W. Bush and not caring about deficits. So I'm asking you again, how can Republicans on one hand talk about the deficit when this tax plan will add $1.5 trillion to the debt?
And Roland, I'm agreeing with you again. As you said before, Bush was known to exceed deficits, was a complaint of a lot of Republicans. And on tax cuts, JFK, Reagan, Bush, they all did tax cuts. So I agree with you. It's not we're not all monolithic. Your point is, you're valid. It's a $1.5 trillion estimated deficit right now. I will say 2 points to that. One is, the way that Congress is set up behind us, this is just the first step. The House has to pass the bill, the Senate has to pass the bill, then those two sides have to talk together and pass a bill. You can't right now pass a bill without 60 votes without 60 votes if it adds to the deficit. So there's no way that Republicans can pass any tax reform bill unless it does not add to the deficit, because if they do add to the deficit, they need Democrat votes to get it passed. And so this is just the first step in the process. It's not final, but I would love to go back and talk to some of the points about the tax bill and some of the details about it. You're talking about some of the things that the bill did not touch, which you're right, which is the 20% capital gains thing. But some things that the bill did do is double the standard deduction, which again, you're talking about some of the deductions that were eliminated, but that is offset by doubling the standard deduction. Democrats, you always like to talk about Trump Lives Matter. Well, the Washington Post did a great article this week calling out the Democrat lies about this bill. Democrats were going around saying that the majority of people who make under $88,000 a year will see a tax increase under this bill. The Washington Post, not a friend of Republicans, said that is four Pinocchios. That is a lie. In fact, the majority of people making under $88,000 a year will see a tax benefit from this. You were talking about the
first of all, I'm still troubled by people who try to expand this whole notion of middle class. Hold tight 1 second. Welcome back. We're talking about the Republicans' tax plan, who it benefits and who it does not. Before I go to Amber and Cleo, I want to go back to Deborah. Deborah, your thoughts on what Brandon said, that yes, most people making $88,000 or less are going to benefit from this tax plan.
Well, benefit how? Okay, so this is being proposed that initially when it was proposed, it was said that the average person would get $4,000. Now what we're hearing, they're breaking that, pushing that back down to about $1,100. This tax proposal clearly is benefiting what has been touched are the kinds of exemptions, mortgage interest, those kinds of things that really impact the middle class. At the end of the day, how much more are middle-class Americans going to have in their pockets? Based on this tax proposal, it is not going to be a significant increase. If anything, rather than just increasing that standard deduction by $24,000, what they need to do is focus more on this new economy that we're in, where people don't have pension plans. If anything, you're looking at just keeping the types of deductions or contributions you can make to your retirement plans in place. What we should have seen is some kind of innovation around making it easier for Americans to save more towards retirement. And the other point that I wanted to bring up are this corporate tax rate. The way this proposal was presented to the American people, that this was going to really impact the middle class and that they would be able to keep more in their pockets and that eventually we would see an increase in wages if they reduce these corporate tax rate. what we see right now is that corporations, major corporations, are awash in cash that they don't know what to do with. And so when that happens, what they end up doing is buying back their stocks or increasing their dividends. And so if we look at who that impacts, what we see is that the top 1% are the ones that really gain more of their income. They don't have they don't pay personal incomes. They're not getting their incomes from W-2s.
Right.
They're getting their income from appreciation and capital gains. And if you will look again at this capital gains tax rate, nothing was changed. So if you're going to give people, if you're going to cut this corporate tax rate, you've got to find the money to do that. And as I see it, the way they found the money to do that was eliminating a lot of the benefits that the average American did receive. $24,000 does not necessarily cut it.
Amber, we're going to go to you. What's interesting about this is when you look at this in terms of what Deborah just said, in terms of how the rich, frankly, live. Right, they're not getting salaries. They're not sitting here worrying about the top income tax bracket being 39.6% because they're living off of those investments. You also have Republicans in the Senate who are saying, look, forget trying to get rid of the estate tax. Susan Collins is saying that's a non-starter. You got Senator Bob Corker who is saying, y'all better find $4 trillion in cutting loopholes if you think I'm going to support this. And so it is still very interesting that Republicans are of this belief that, oh, no, that we're going to jack up the deficit to somehow pay for the tax cuts. We've seen this picture or this movie before.
Right. And I mean, just recently, Oprah went viral for talking about how she hasn't cashed a check in over 20 plus years. So I'm pretty sure that rich folks aren't like, well, we need to see what the government is going to do to protect and save us. Whereas young people like myself are really concerned about how we cannot be Lauryn Hill and Wesley Snipes dealing with these type of issues and being concerned about our country not even adequately explaining this process to us. So I have nothing but questions for experts like Ms. Owens here, because Oprah is telling me that, you know, she hasn't even touched a debit card. So I'm sure that this isn't an issue for them. And I'm wondering, again, where is the innovation coming in to help social entrepreneurs? We know that Black women are one of the largest growing entrepreneurs in this country. What does support look like for us who are building and innovating ways to take care of our communities and feed our folks so that we can continue to give to the American public and to populations and to build legacies and generations of wealth. And I don't believe the GOP is really concerned about building wealth of people who currently don't already have it.
Cleo, it's interesting. A new poll shows that by a margin of 50 to 33%, Americans are opposed to this tax plan. 60% say it favors the wealthy. That's the poll numbers. I doubt you're going to see folks retweeting that.
Well, I have to admit, Roland, I don't have all of the information on this tax bill. I'm still reading up on it. But I think getting to
so are House Republicans.
Honestly.
Right. And getting back to Amber's point in terms of that inspired what I'm going to say, I think it's important for us to understand that the issues that you raise, Amber, are not the concern of Donald Trump. And also, it's to be expected, easily expected, that Donald Trump, whatever he's going to do, is going to ultimately benefit his crew. So going back to what you said about gatekeepers, it's all in the context of other people controlling things and us either sitting back and allowing them to continue to be the gatekeepers and do what they want to do, or us demanding accountability. But I think more often than not, we converse and have living room conversations about what we don't like and do not come out of that living room and make statements on the outside so we can make people accountable, because this is kind of criminal. It's criminal to have a country of people that have need, and for that need to be ignored, and people do what the heck they want to do, and people remain poor or become poor as a result of the decisions that they make. And we sit here and have intellectual conversations.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no.
That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong.
Unfiltered.
He wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV One.